Hi, welcome to the Eclectic Radical, and I'm Chris Richards, the Eclectic Radical, and we're going to talk tonight about a few things. For start, last week before, the transition started. The GSA called up the transition team, the Biden transition team, and said, "Hey, we can start working," and they went to work. So, as a result, it's not a coup. Now, I've been saying it wasn't a coup for a while. I have been predicting that no, it's not a coup. It's not even close to a coup. It's Trump building up the grievance mythology for the next however many years. 2004, 2024. See, I'm old. And he may run in 2024. If he doesn't run in 2024, he's going to want to have a big say in who the nominee is. He needs to be robbed. He needs to have been, it needs to have been a theft. He needs to be in all kinds of trouble. It's just, if it's not, if it's not fake, he doesn't have anything to run on in 2024. It's not like he was a successful president. Biden started to make some cabinet announcements. Those are great. We've got Antony Blinken and Michelle Flournoy, who owned a consulting firm together, and who knows who they've been doing business with. They won't say. But hey, they're going to be Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense. So that's great, right? Who knows who they worked for? Who knows what they did while they were consulting? Though I know what I would want foreign policy people consulting for if I was a big corporation, and none of it's good. These consulting outfits, they do quite a lot of things that we don't want to know about. There's some excellent things in current affairs. Go to their website sometime and read about McKinsey there. It's great stuff. So, and we've also it's come out that Neera Tanden, I'm sure she's everyone's favorite person. Neera Tanden may be the head of the OMB. I don't think that's really an inspired choice. If there's somebody both Democrats and Republicans hate, it's Neera. But there we go. Biden's going to be Biden, and he's going to appoint who he wants, right? And of course, Janet Yellen for Secretary of the Treasury. He's got to make it up to her that Trump fired her for being short, I guess. That's a really petty reason to fire somebody, but Janet Yellen isn't exactly who I'd want to pull us out of a recession. A former Fed chair is usually better at causing recessions than actually ending them. So, we're going to have just a great 4 years. The Homeland Security Secretary designate is a wonderful gentleman who was the Deputy Homeland Security Secretary in 2013 or 2014 when The Intercept's interview subject, Dawn Wooten, said that the forced hysterectomies started. So the guy who's going to be taking over the Department of Homeland Security from Trump's people is the guy who was in charge when the doctor in Georgia started doing things he wasn't supposed to. And now he's back. And now he's in charge of the whole Department of Homeland Security. What could go wrong? A lot could go wrong. A lot could go wrong. Um, I don't know if the camps are going to close. Biden's hires don't seem like the sort of people I would expect to close the camps anytime soon. I don't think that Biden is in a hurry to close the camps. I wish it were different, but it seems like everyone who was talking about closing the camps completely forgot about it as soon as Biden was the nominee. Maybe before Biden was the nominee. Once the Democrats decided that abolish ICE was way too radical, as if the Department of Homeland Security and ICE were older than 2001. Sorry, 2002, I think, is when that all finally passed. But when you have an agency that's not even 20 years old yet, of course we can do without it. There's no reason. There's no reason to have our own Gestapo. There's no reason to be running concentration camps. And honestly, there's no reason to be stopping people from coming in. We wrecked their countries in the first place. The refugees are coming from Central America, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. The main reason they're coming up here is because of crime, and it's not even the crime. It was exported to Central America from Los Angeles when an LA gangbanger got deported and started the satellite version of his hometown gang back in El Salvador. Then we had the Honduras coup, and all sorts of things changed. Honduras is a very libertarian country now, where the cops often hire the gangbangers. I'm sorry, the corporations often hire the gangbangers to be their security, which really makes the cops just another gang at that point. But it's out of control there. The right wing government in El Salvador has always had similar issues. The lack of interest in controlling the gangs, because everybody makes money off of them, means that if you're afoul of the gang, you've got to leave the country. And that's why they come up here. And there's no reason that we shouldn't be letting them in. All the things that people are worried about from undocumented people can't happen if somebody's here illegally, which is the dirty secret. Is if we just let people in legally and make them legal, it's only going to be good for the economy. It's only going to be good for us. And torturing people instead of welcoming them is wrong, completely wrong. So it looks like the chat's off to a slow start. So I've got to talk some more about Biden's prospective cabinet. They're all people who worked for Obama so far. They're all people who were, the foreign policy people are all people who were complicit in the crimes committed in the Obama administration, which is exactly what everyone who didn't want Biden to be the nominee warned everyone about. It was the height of arrogance to think that Biden was ever going to try to bargain with anybody to his left once he was the nominee. There's no power to push him except to actually pass legislation through the Senate. And even if both Democrats win in Georgia and we have a Democratic Senate, there's absolutely no guarantee that Senate is progressive enough to pass anything to force Biden to do anything. So it's very frustrating. And I don't like it. The historical context for this stuff isn't good. Biden was in the Senate when Reagan was president and pushed Reagan for all his tough on crime decisions. Yes, this is true. The government cares the least about the hardest working and cares the most about the people who do the least work because they have the money. And those are Biden's constituents. Those are the people who donated to his campaign. The founder of Comcast held his first event. That didn't go over very well. But nobody laying line for Comcast is going to do well out of Biden's presidency, even if the company does. And it's really starting to look scary. We don't hear about plans to close the camps. We don't hear about plans to give people health care. We don't hear about plans to give people stimulus to keep them going so that they don't get evicted or have their utilities cut off. Nobody's talking about this anymore. You hear some people talk about stimulus on the news, but mostly it's to say it's not going to happen until 2021. The Senate went on vacation. The Congress was working on it the other day, but nobody expects anything to come of it. And the president-elect has kept his mouth shut about the whole thing. He's not saying a word, so we don't know what he thinks. Except my guess is that he may think a lot like the people in his campaign who were saying they were going to be focused on the deficit. Janet Yellen's biggest concern is the deficit. And she's said so. If she really is the Treasury Secretary, we're going to see a push for some balanced budgets. And that balanced budgets don't end well for the working class during a plague. They don't work very well during a recession in general. FDR tried to balance his budget as the country was coming out of the Depression, and the result was another stock market crash and that much longer depression because of the balanced budget. They called it the Roosevelt recession. And we may be seeing the Biden recession soon. We're going to see the economy crater. If people are losing their jobs because businesses are closing, we're going to see people lose their homes. more evictions are going to happen. More people are going to have their utilities cut off and have to try to find someplace warm. And I don't see Biden doing much about it. I don't see his team doing much about it. If Neera Tanden is in charge of the Office of Management and Budget, I don't know that I see the administration caring a lot. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me while I ramble. I'm sorry that I'm not quite as on point as I was on the first stream. And I do hope that you can hang in there with me. It's hard not to be angry lately. I really don't want to be angry. I'm tired of being angry. It's very frustrating to be so angry all the time, but at the same time, the anger motivates me. I feel like I can do something with that anger. I feel like we have a lot of people to call out. There were a lot of people who were telling us all the reasons that Biden was going to save us, and I don't see Biden in a rush to save us. Sure, he's not president yet. He's only president-elect. Trump's still the lame duck. Transition only finally got around to getting started, and that was only because we had to wait for Trump's temper tantrum to end. Okay, that's fine. But he should have said something about stimulus by now. He should have said something about stimulus while he was running against Trump. I haven't heard it. If someone else has heard it and they're in the chat, please let me know. But I haven't heard it. I don't think Biden sees stimulus as being at the top of his list. I think Biden is focused on the vaccine and foreign policy. Don't let it discourage you. Don't let it discourage you. I'm feeling like I almost wouldn't be motivated to do a lot of this if I weren't angry. So I'm not going to be discouraged. I'm going to keep using it for motivation. And thanks for listening. And thanks for speaking up. There are some bright spots. There are some bright spots in the past election that I haven't talked about very much because I wasn't doing a show by myself in the election. But the new mayor of Baldwin Park, California, is from the Green Party. He won that. He's in a good position to make real changes. Let me look that up real quick. Here. All right, there it is. Emmanuel Estrada. That's his name, Emmanuel Estrada. He is 26 years old. He was running from the Green Party. And he's got a chance to be a star. Baldwin Park is in LA County. That's a place where if he does well as mayor, he can run for county supervisor. He can run for Congress or state assembly. This is actually a big win for the Greens, even if they didn't manage to get to 5%, and even if they didn't manage to break through in very many places the way some of us might have wanted, they elected a mayor. You got to start somewhere. I really hope to see good things from Emmanuel Estrada. I'm looking forward to it. You're angry because you care, Chris. Don't think we don't see that. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it. I do care. That's what makes me angry. It's why I want things to be just a little bit easier for everyone. There were, of course, other bright spots. Cory Bush got elected. I'm still happy about that. This long after Election Day, I'm still happy about Cory Bush getting elected. I'm also very happy about Jamal Bowman and Mondaire Jones. It was a very good cycle in the big picture, even though the centrists lost a bunch of seats in the House. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that all the losers who went home after one term in the House were centrists. They try to blame socialism, and they don't tell you that the two defeated Congress people blaming socialism the loudest, Donna Shalala and Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, were beaten because they were out-of-touch crooks who really people didn't feel like they represented anyone but donors. There was a commercial that was actually run that it didn't say a word about socialism. It made DMP look like she was in a silver castle doing her thing without paying much attention to her constituents. Those commercials hurt. They hurt a whole lot more than socialism. And the fact that Debbie was elected as a progressive, saying that she was going to make things better for working people in her district, and she didn't deliver and turned out to be pretty conservative. She's only got herself to blame for losing, not socialism. If she's going to blame socialism, it should be because she didn't practice it enough. Maybe if she had been more of a socialist, she would have won. My friend Marie says that the new mayor of Miami-Dade County was the furthest left candidate of the bunch, beat a Republican. So it's not that Miami is totally hostile to socialists and lefties. They just didn't like DMP and Donna. Don't forget that. And I missed this earlier, but I'll bring it up now. No, I haven't heard any of them talking about a stimulus unless I've missed it in the mess of issues that this government has created. No, and that's what I thought, Colleen. I didn't think I had heard it either. I appreciate that. I know that Biden would rather talk a lot and do very little. And yes, this is right. Most politicians play the blame game, and Biden would rather blame people. The thing to remember when people talk to you about why we're not getting the stimulus, if they say, well, it's because of Trump, remember to say that it's because of Nancy and Mitch, too. If they say it's because of Mitch, remember to say it's because of Nancy and Trump, too. And if they say it's because of Nancy, remember to say it's because of Mitch and Trump, too, because it's all three of them. It takes three people to disagree. It takes three people to mess things up this badly and not be able to get on the same page. There are things that the Democrats could give up. While I don't believe necessarily that they should, there is a point of view that would tell you that when Democrats want to stop Republicans from shielding corporations from being sued by their employees, it's because they're more worried about trial lawyers than the employees doing the suing. And they want to make sure that the lawyers who donate to their campaigns are taken care of. And that they would rather stop any bill from passing than agree to those liability restrictions, because that would hurt them with their trial lawyer donors and constituents. I don't want to see corporations get that liability shield, but what would I do if it were the only way to get people stimulus and I was in Congress? I don't know. If we were talking real money to take care of people, I might have to think about it. There are better ways to deal with some of that stuff than lawsuits, maybe. And maybe I would be able to find something like that wasn't in the shield. But I'm not in Congress. It's not up to me. And the people who are in Congress have made their decisions. And we have to live with them. And I don't know if it'll really get better or not. I would like to see the new progressives pushing hard and taking advantage of the fact that the Democrats lost seats, but that more centrists lost than progressives. And so the numbers come out a little more in the progressives' favor now. If 15 members of the Progressive Caucus hold firm, that's enough to stop the Democrats from passing anything, which means 15 members of the Progressive Caucus can have the final say on what does and doesn't pass if they care enough to exercise that power, which is the real problem that the Democrats have always had, using power. The Democrats don't like power, or at least they act like they don't like power. Now, none of them seem to want to give up their seats. So clearly, they like their power in Congress. The people who did lose want to blame progressives for losing, even though we know, as I said, that that's not the case. And while the progressives have been fighting back about it, AOC spoke up on that subject. Other people spoke up on that subject. Nobody's really been pushing back on it seriously in the mainstream media. It's been pretty much, MSNBC has been pretty much accepting uncritically the story that people lost because of progressives. When people do push back, it's very weak. The notion that Congress people lost because of calls to defund the police, when Wisconsin and Atlanta, two of the biggest protest sites, went for Biden primarily because of feeling generated by those protests. It really makes you wonder about the Democrats who say, but nobody really wants to defund the police. No, they're saying they don't want to defund the police, and they would rather blame a slogan and protesters than deal with their real problems. And if the Democrats aren't willing to deal with their real problems, then what good are they? And now this is getting darker than I intended, so I should apologize for that. And shortly, I'm going to wrap up. Does anybody have any questions? Anything in the chat before I wrap up? Any topics that we should mention before I leave? All right. Looks like the chat's mostly dead, but I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. I apologize for not really having a good show put together, and I hope you hang in there with me. I'll see you next week. Have a great night.